joining me now is a journalist and social affairs analyst, Ify Onyegbule. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Women in politics, it's quite low, women participation in politics. We see that in everyday life. Why is that happening?
So many reasons. When you look at it over a period, it is something that has actually, some say it's something that has come to stay with us, but I think it's something that needs to be looked at. There was a research that was carried out, and we found out that in the last election, of the 84 million registered voters, about 40 million, yes, 40 million were actually women.
Okay.
And you find that that is something that should have spoken for the women. When you talk about dishing out of appointments, I'm using the word dishing now loosely as it is, or, you know, settling women as it is for what it is they did during that election. But when you look at it from the reports that Kemi actually gave, 16% is abysmally low. Of course, the 35% was kind of approved somehow in 2017. But when you look at it, it's actually gone down. You know, compared to the previous administration, it's decreased and all of that. So you ask yourself the question why that is. I was taking it because when you talk about politics, let's start with the ministers. I was taking a look at the ministers that President Muhammadu Buhari has actually assembled. I looked at them. When you look at it, there are just 3 of them, to me, that I would say should be looked at. Those are the people I'm actually looking at. You look at the others, they're just there. He probably just picked them because of what it is that they had done during the elections and all of that. But I do not want to believe that there are no women in Nigeria who can actually deliver. But is the environment conducive for them to come out?
Is that an excuse for women to step back?
They're not stepping back. I'm sure you understand how the men do things in this part of the world. There are so many women who are bold. But tell me, how many of the women have the war chest to go into politics like the men do? The women don't find people who can support them, like you have godfathers.
The women
also
support themselves?
Yes, at some point the women support themselves. But when you look at politics, I've had to speak with quite a number of women who stepped into, they call it the murky waters of politics. And they say to me that it's the same women that will ask them, how much is it? What do you have for us? And all of that. But they don't have the kind of money that men have to go into politics. So I would say it is something that makes them step back, you know, from stepping all out or coming forward to take those positions.
So what can be done to actually get women involved in the politics of Nigeria?
Yeah, we've started as it is. Lagos and some other states have actually taken that position. Of course, this year we didn't find that a woman was, you know, put forward as a deputy governor. Yeah. But this is a state that has been progressive when you talk about it. If you look at some of the other appointments, even at the lower Keda, a lot of women, you know, were giving those opportunities to come out. But I think it's something that should go round. I got a wind of a report about Kwara State where names were put forward for commissioners, and you didn't find one woman there. And I asked the question, where is the weight of Gbemi Saraki? That's a very powerful woman. I respect her so much. All the way from APP and all of that, and the way she moved and how she got herself to where she is. She's very strong in politics. She's a very good politician. So where did they put her when you talk about young women? I'm sure she has proteges, people that she's been mentoring. Where did they put her when they did that kind of thing, you know, put forward a list of ministers without women? I'm hoping that gets to change. So I think they should just make the environment conducive for women. Saddle them with responsibilities. It's not just for them to look all beautiful with their headgears and all of that and come to clap for you at campaigns, or when you're sworn in, they just come there and show themselves with their painted faces and all of that. Give them responsibilities. Women can do it, and I'm sure it is something they will deliver on.
You have repeatedly said that women, the enabling environment should be created. In what way? All the nocturnal meetings. Why don't you do meetings in broad daylight where these women can attend? They tell you, even the women who have achieved something, you know, in politics, they say to them, oh, you've been sleeping around. Those are the things that we get to hear. I interviewed a 2-time minister years ago, and she said to me, it was during the Obasanjo administration, oh, they say I was sleeping with the president and all of that. People say things, and it's the women that even say some of these things. They ask the question, why is it you? Why are you the one moving forward? And they get to talk about this person and pull the person down. I think those times that they have meetings, let it, you know, move up a bit. All right.
And
just make the environment very conducive for women. And the money is something people need to look at. For the men, you hear the kind of money that they mention. And when you need to purchase forms, they say they want to give women free forms. I don't believe in free forms. Give them a level playing ground where they can step in and do what it is that the men are doing.
Let's talk women.
Very interesting topic for me.
Very, very interesting. We realized that even in the last election, and women had so much drive and participation in terms of pushing, campaigning, and all of that. But when you look at elective and even appointive positions, you can't really find them there. Do we as a nation understand the role of women in nation building?
I would say no, completely. When you look at it, you've just talked about it. When you hear about campaigns, it's the women that will get ready. You want 500 buses today filled with women, you'll get it. They're able to galvanize themselves, get their B and all of that, looking also colorful, and you find them always filing behind the men. When you talk about this now, some there watching will say, oh, that's a feminist. I'm not into feminism as it is. I know that we all have our roles. The man has his traditional role cut out for him. The woman has hers. But then you will not continue to put the woman behind, always deciding what her fate will be. It's about giving her the level playing ground where she can get out to compete because of what's in her head, not because of her makeup as it is. And when I talk about makeup, it's about the way that you look, your body as a woman, your genetic makeup as a woman. That's not the reason that people should, you know, give you some kind of positions. Deal with the woman because of what she has to offer. But when you look at it, over the years, the women have just been there offering support to the men.
Now, when you look at our society, it is more of a patriarchal society, so to speak. But then how does that aspect and even cultural stereotypes, religion, you know, compound these issues?
Yeah, these things that you've mentioned, they truly compound the issues when you look at it. Because as a woman, you step out, you want to, you know, vie for a particular position. People come to ask you the question, do you have a husband at all? And you find out that when the men step out to do these things, nobody asks you, do you have a wife at all? So why should there always be a stereotype? She's stepping out, she wants to be governor. They're wondering, who does that and all of that? But I say to them, if she's able to do it, why not? Yes, because we're from a patriarchal society. People tend to look at things from the perspective of the man. I'm sure you've observed it. Sometimes I'm driving on the road. I was driving some time ago and somebody came up to me and said, oh, now woman safe. And I'm like, excuse me?
Yeah.
What's that supposed to mean? So as he sped off, I ran after him. I overtook him again just to make a statement that, look, you drive with your hands, your legs, and what's in your head. Not, you know, what it is that makes you a man or a woman. All of those stereotypes need to begin to change. Then again, you step out, you want to contest. They're wondering, have you told your pastor in church? Have you spoken to your priest? And all of that. It just doesn't make sense. Then you step out, they tell you, have you seen your traditional ruler? Yes, I know you must meet with your traditional ruler to get to talk about it. But once they have the men who have come with the war chest, I always talk about the war chest, they tell you, please step aside. Someone is right there for the position. And I don't think it should be that way.
So where do we begin to change this mindset, so to speak? Does it begin from the home front where you see the girl is already prepared right from whatever age to be the woman, the wife?
Growing up, I would say, maybe I'll just give this kudos to my father. That line was never drawn. I grew up in a family of boys. We were 6. I had a big sister who was with my grandmother. Then we had 4 boys. Everyone was taught to cook. You wash your plate, you sweep. I washed my father's car. I fetched water with this head you're seeing here to climb up to go, you know, put it. I did all of that. There was nothing like, oh, you're a girl, you go and cook, the boys go and play football. I rode bicycles on the streets of Surulere as it is. And that's how we were brought up. So I'm thinking that parents should, as you said, start from the home. Don't say this is a boy or this is a girl. This is a human being. And a woman must be giving that push, that nudge to succeed in whatever she does.
Now, how far are we? Would we even ever get to this point of the 35% affirmation that we've been talking about?
Yes. I don't see that happening, because when you talk about
all?
it, not in the very near future.
so that I'm not being pessimistic as it is. Look at it.
Can't we be optimistic?
We can be. When you add the president to the list of ministers, you find out that what you have now is about 15%. It just doesn't make sense from the 35% affirmative act,
affirmative action, yeah.
Yes, that was approved maybe in 2017, thereabout. Yes. When you look at it, what we have is 15%. How many of these women do you have right there in the Senate? How many of them right there in the House of Reps? How many local government chairmen do you have across the 74 local governments that we have in Nigeria? How many is just a handful if you look at it? How many women governors do we have? When are we going to have a woman governor who just doesn't get in there?
We almost had one.
Yes, but because her principal was going to be pushed out of office. When are we going to get it that a woman steps up to contest and she wins an election? They won't look at you that, oh, you're a Christian, you're not a Muslim. Oh, you're a Muslim, you're not a Christian. Oh, you're this, you're that. People need to stop stereotyping women so that they can step out and deliver.
Interesting. People need to stop stereotyping women. One important fact. We've been talking about equality, the 35% affirmative action and all of that. But when you look at this critically, are we really sincere in achieving this, women participation in politics? We use them when it comes, I'm using that word, use, when it comes to politics, campaigning and all of those. But when it comes to appointments and positions, basically, it seems our sincerity just fizzles into the air.
Yes, I think that this question should be put, at the men who are at the helm of affairs, all the kingmakers as it were. No matter how much we try to run away from it, there are people who determine who's going to be where, how, and why that person should be there. So I think we need to put this across to them. This discussion needs to be kept on the table. It needs to be kept on the front burner for a long time to come so that we inch gradually to that 35 affirmative action as it is. I've always said in different forums that the 15 or 16% that we have now, it's embarrassingly low. Look at what is happening at the assembly, whether state, whether at the federal level. You don't find enough women there who should represent the issues. Now, if you talk about recently, the issue of rape and all of that has been right there on the front burner. When you should have women who should be discussing these issues, they're not there. The men have other issues to discuss, and when you come up with issues like that, they don't even want to bring it.
So the women
to talk about it.
We have some women in the House.
Yes.
We have some women in politics who are in different political strides. Why are they not talking about these issues since they're in the front burner?
It simply means that the discussions that we bring to the fore is not something that the people who have put them there want to talk about. Do you understand what I'm saying? There are issues, but of course the person who puts you there will say,
is it
these
about
are the things we need to
that discussion, not the person that put them there, not wanting them to have that discussion, or they understanding why they are there in the first place?
Now, let's look at the issue of rape and all of that. You would think that some people will come together to say, look, this is what needs to be done about this. Let's decide this. When I talk about rape, I'm looking at defilement when it comes to minors. Someone needs to come up and take a decision on that. Other countries have done that. It's either you're castrating the person or you're taking this person completely out of the community so that some children will be safe. Well, you find that in Nigeria, they play, this thing is just dealt with kids.
So how have these women handled these issues? Because, like I said, do they really understand why they are there?
They do not understand.
You're supposed to push this thing, champion this cause.
They don't understand that because we play politics with everything. That's the truth. Then you find again that the local woman or the woman whose child has been defiled also tells you, look, I don't want this to be blown into the open.
Culture of science.
Just so I can, protect the identity of my child. Then you look at it. If you don't want to talk, how can people come out to talk? You only have the NGOs who get on the street to talk about it. Let's bring the issue of the girls who have now become mamas or grandmas, wherever they are. I'm talking about the Chibok girls. You would expect that day in, night out, Nigerian women should stand on the streets to say, we demand the release, or we demand you going to rescue these girls. Well, nobody's talking about it.
So if we have women who do not understand why they are there, why don't we have women who understand why they should be there, come out and go there so that they can raise up these issues?
The only woman who's been talking about it, she's been branded all sorts of names. I'm talking about Obi Ezekwesili. Of course, recently she was in South Africa, despite the government's directive that they're not going to the World Economic Forum.
Yeah.
Well, she went there as an individual. I listened to what she talked about. It trended on different, social media handles. But you found out that women were still maligning this woman. They were throwing her under the bus. So what we're trying to say now is that you find that women are trying to inch forward and, talk about these issues. There are other women who are there to pull her down.
So what is this a function of? Where some women are thinking, trying to ensure that this conversation still stays on the front burner, and others are not understanding it.
I think it's a moral issue. We need to go back to the drawing board. Sit down on the table, whatever table it is, square, circle, rectangular, however it is, or even this kind of table. Just sit down and get to talk about the issues. Talk to yourselves. Remember Mama Jibril, at the time she stepped out, she only had 1 vote. Who does that? There were women there. So the idea is, I hate to say that, sometimes you don't find women supporting the cause of other women. I hate to push that narrative, but it happens. But the conversation needs to change. There should be a paradigm shift, a total paradigm shift. Wherever you find a woman, support her. At least we can start from there.
Importantly. Thank you, Ify Onyegbule, for your time on TVC Breakfast.